And then once we completely lost everything, we realized we just don't know the essence of what is really important anymore. And God, through his words, he just bring me closer and closer to the definition of love, of his love. And so amazingly, miracle starts happening.
Welcome to the Jesus Calling podcast. Today's guests have each had their worlds rocked with devastating events and found themselves with nowhere to go except to their knees in prayer. Entrepreneur and philanthropist Helena Cho and radio host and author Susie Larson. First up, Helena Cho immigrated to the United States when she was just 8 years old. Through hard work and the strong faith of her mother, Helena eventually began building a successful company at age 25. But in the 2008 financial crash, Helena lost everything. In the days that followed, she began to realize that God had a much bigger plan for her life than she could have ever dreamed of herself.
My name is Helena Cho. I'm CEO of Good Works Make a Difference. I have an inspirational company that empowers and inspires, and we give 25% back to make a difference in the world. I came to the United States about 8.5. I am born from 4th-generation Christian family. I'm Korean, and I came to Monterey, California. I lived in a small town called Marina, and my dad was a pastor. My grandfather is a pastor. Our house was over 100 years old. It wasn't a lot that one day we were going to build a church. And we lived in this little home. And our house was a humble home. We had molds everywhere in the ceiling. We had to wait, until our waters turned white because we had rusted pipes and all our water was orange. My dad did a small ministry in this little city. And by the third week, we had no money. But it was still a beautiful place. It was a land of opportunities. And I was still excited to live in America. I felt like this is going to be a land of opportunities, and I'm going to have a new life here. And then 7th grade, my mom sees a newspaper of this wonderful girl who's a genius, and she got a full scholarship to a Robert Louis Stevenson in Pebble Beach. It was an amazing boarding day school in Pebble Beach, and it was very reputable and still reputable today. And my mother said, I want you to go to this school, Helena. And I know God's going to send you to this school. And I'm thinking to myself, my mom must be crazy. My mom, seriously, she's crazy. I'm not a straight A student. I don't have the money. What is she thinking? And she said, you know what, Helena? God could make this happen. My mom made me study 10 hours a day. She made me do all these math problems, reading comprehensions. Meantime, I'm just rebellious. I hate my mom for having dreams like this. That's impossible. That's, putting me some kind of fantasy that I can go to this boarding school and private school, what have you, when I don't have the ability and I don't have the money. At my best, I'm a C student. I just really wanted to give up, and I hated my mom for having such a fantasy dreams. And 8th grade comes. I walk into my room, and I see $100 application on my desk. And to a girl that grew up with not knowing that the family doesn't have $10, $100 application itself was a miracle. That minute I saw that application on my desk, I just literally got on my knees. And I knew that, oh my gosh, how in the world, first of all, did she get this application? But in my heart, I thought, you know what? For the first time in my life, I got on my knees. And I said, God, maybe with you, I can go to this school. And I prayed and prayed with God every day, just to God, help me with this math, help me with this English, help me with this science, help me with this history. Just like that. Just a little 8th grader just praying on her knees to God for the first time. And of course, the miracle is this. I graduated valedictorian and got straight A's and got accepted to Stevenson with a scholarship. And that was my first miracle at age 13 and a half. That with God, all things are possible. That's kind of where my life began, in this country. It's just been amazing for me from at early age. And so I had this glorious 4 years in high school, and I got a scholarship to USC. I majored in finance and marketing at USC. And then I graduated, and I got married at 23. 25 and a half, I started a company, and I got a $50,000 loan from a bank. But I was so bold, and I thought, okay, I'm going to do everything I can to build this company. And so we used to live with a $200, just grocery fees with my husband and I, and whatever that we could, we're going to give it to a mission fund. So that's how I started. And so by early 30s, I was already a very, very big company. I had close to 870 employees. I was living the American dream. I had buildings, I had houses. I was dining with celebrities. I was invited by all the galas, but arrogance came in so fast. And I didn't even know that I was that arrogant. But arrogance took over. My pride took over. Now I was too busy to study the Word of God. In 2008, the market crashed, and the company that I have built, that I've never known failure since 25 and a half, it tumbled, completely bankrupt, lost everything. And it's so, when you're rich and you have everything, everyone loves you. But when you lose everything, you know how that goes. Everyone leaves you. So that's where I was. I lost everything. Everyone left me. And I had nowhere to go. I don't have a rich uncle or rich father or rich anybody. So in my desperateness, because I had no one, nowhere to go, I'm just lost and broken and broke. I kneeled to God. I was actually so far away from God's words, I had no idea where to even turn in the Bible. And actually, that's when I actually got a gift from somebody from church, Jesus Calling. And day by day, it led me to 1 verse at a time, 2 verse at a time, 3 verse at a time. Sometimes it started out with just reading the words for the day. But then I started studying the Bible verses that was given to me. And those words spoke to me, encouraged me, and strengthened me. What I remember Jesus Calling, there's many, many days, but I love September 18th. Seek to please me above all else. Let that goal be your focal point as you go through this day. Such a mindset will protect you from scattering your energy to the winds. The free will I bestowed on you comes with awesome responsibility. Each day presents you with choice after choice. Many of these decisions you ignore and thus make by default. Without a focal point to guide you, you can easily lose your way. That's why it's so important to stay in communication with me, living in thankful awareness of my presence. You inhabit a fallen, disjointed world where things are constantly unraveling around the edges. Only a vibrant relationship with me can keep you from coming unraveled too. And this word speaks to me because each day it reminds me, where is my focal point? It is not to please men, it's to please God. No matter where we go, He is with us. And wherever we do it with all our heart for Him, for His glory. And then now I'm losing everything. I've lost my houses, I've lost my buildings, my business, everything is just gone. And my mom, who's just a fearless, just faithful giant, she said, what is God is God's. Helena, I know what you see with your own naked eyes, with the human eyes, you see a cliff. And that's all you see. Because you're going to fall off that cliff. The minute you think that, you know what, I'm just going to fall off, I got to hold on to something, or I'm going to fall off that cliff. I know that's how you feel. But I tell you, when you hold on to God's word and you obey, He will never let you fall off a cliff, never. I couldn't go home. And I had to stop somewhere because I was crying so much. I stopped my car at a parking lot of Bank of America. I parked my car, and I'm just crying and crying and crying. So amazingly, probably because my mom was praying, for whatever the reason, I was crying and crying, but I start praying. And I prayed probably, I don't even know how much I prayed, probably about 50 minutes. And I stopped, I just cut off from a 50-minute prayer in my car, and I realized something. I was so busy running a company. I was so busy making money. I was so busy with life. I forgot when I prayed 50 minutes. I don't remember. And I'm praying to the Lord. God, I don't know where to turn. I'm not that familiar with the Bible still. And I grabbed the Bible, and the Bible was still a little bit dusty. I haven't opened it enough. I said, God, just give me one confirmation that you are with me. And I opened the Bible, and I open it up, and it lands on Psalms 121:1. And it reads, lift your eyes to the mountain. Where does your help come from? It comes from above, creator of heaven and earth. And it was such a confirmation of his words, and just confirmation that he is with me. And you know what's amazing about a confirmation from God's words? It's that nothing changed. I'm still broke. Nothing changed. My situation did not change, not one bit. But there was something that I felt in the first time in my life, a complete peace. And of course, you all know, just because you have this joy, just because God gives you this amazing joy joy and peace, and his word speaking to you, that doesn't mean that everything just gets solved, right? You know that. You know that your finances just doesn't turn around in one day because you hit a lottery. Come on. That doesn't happen. Well, it didn't happen for me either. God said, if you're faithful with small things, that he's going to bless you with more things. So I used to pray like this. God, please, Lord, please, Father, bless me with something little, and I know you're going to multiply that. So when I was a rich girl, I made this a bracelet, 36-inch long, like a string looking like thing, but it was nice. It was leather, and it was debossed with all this 21 inspirational words like faith, make a difference, sow love, like that kind of words. And so I made these bracelets. I made 2,000 of them. And I gave out 1,400, and I had 600 that I just forgot to give out. And so it was packed in a garbage bag in a garage. I'm praying on my knees, Lord, please bless me with small things. And in that moment, I saw the garbage bag in my garage. I'm thinking to myself, this can't be it, God. And so I took that garbage bag back into my prayer room. I got on my knees. I said, God, what do I do with it? You are not serious. I'm not going to be going door to door. I used to be executive of a big company. I used to run a big company. I'm not going to go door to door and sell a little dinky thing that I used to give out for free. How am I going to make a living with this, And amazingly, this little department store called Buckle popped up. I've never done business with them. I never dealt with the buyers before, but I thought, you know what? I'm going to be brave, and I'm going to make this call, and I'm just going to try to set up an appointment. So I called the buyer, and some amazing, miraculous blessing of God, I connected with a GMM, which is the highest person of all the buyers, right? And so I connected with the GMM, and I told her, and I just prayed, and God gave me wisdom. And this is what I said. I have a miraculous product, a miraculous bracelet, and you're going to have to see this. So can I see you on a Wednesday or a Thursday? So amazingly, she set up an appointment for me. But because I said it was miraculous, she called in all her 12 buyers. And so here I am with my little bracelet in my pocket. It's a 36-inch long, like a string little leather thing. And I take it out of my bracelet. I say, here it is. And it's little string dangling, 36 inches dangling. They're all thinking, that's shoelace or something? What is that? Like this is ridiculous, right? And then I boldly state, with your help, we're going to help 10 families to move into a new home by holidays. And this is like in end of June or something like that. And so they're like, we're going to sell that string looking thing, and we're going to build 10 homes. Okay. So they all thought this is so ridiculous, that I'm claiming this kind of thing. And then, but I'm trying so hard. They say, you know what, why don't we do a test order of 10 stores, which is not a full test when they had about 450 stores or so at that time. You need at least 30 stores to be a full test. And then I was just waiting at the airport, and somebody called me from the Buckle, was GMM. And she said, I changed my mind. I'm going to give you 50 stores to test, which is a full test. So I go in on Thursday, and by Sunday night, it's sold out. By Tuesday morning, I get a full 450 store PO, and we become a number one seller. And so amazingly, we become a number one seller at Buckle, and it just becomes just a dream come true. And then I had a crown princess in Sweden that wore my bracelet. This is all same time frame. And so she's the future queen of Sweden. She wears my bracelet. We become a number one seller in all Scandinavian countries. So this happens in July. And by beginning of December, we built 10 homes in New Orleans for the families that lost everything through the Hurricane Katrina. And so that was a miracle that happened. That's how the whole company birthed. Good works make a difference. It came from 2 Bible verses, Matthew 5:16, let your light shine before others. They can see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. And Proverbs 19:17, be generous to the poor, you lend to the Lord, and He'll reward you for your good deeds. And so today, I am able to do many things that God gives me opportunities to do. We support seminaries all over the world. I do 150,000 bags of groceries with Dream Center. We work with after-school students, supporting them so that they can have amazing after-school programs that they don't have to pay for. This year, we are building a school. We built a kindergarten school, and now we're building it from 1st grade to 8th grade in Kenya. And they're learning about God every day and about Jesus Christ every day. And we're hoping that these children will become the future leaders of Kenya with God's words. And so we have projects like that we're doing that I'm so grateful for. We all have obstacles and hurdles in our life. We go through financial crisis and we go through health crisis. God multiplied me much bigger than I ever imagined that I could ever do. So with God, all things are possible.
To learn how you can help support Good Works Make a Difference, please visit goodworksmakeadifference.com. Stay tuned for our conversation with radio host and author Susie Larson after a brief message about a free offer from Jesus Calling. Are you looking for a way to keep track of your daily prayers along with Jesus Calling? The Jesus Calling Family Prayer Calendar goes right along with your daily readings from Jesus Calling. Each day begins with a guided reflection, followed by a space for you to fill in your prayers of thanksgiving and special requests. You can get your free Jesus Calling Family Prayer Calendar by visiting jesuscalling.com/offers. Visit jesuscalling.com/offers to download your free family prayer calendar today. Our next guest is radio host and author Susie Larson. Through her radio show, Live the Promise, and now her new book, Fully Alive, Susie speaks as a survivor of physical traumas to encourage women everywhere that they are loved, they are strong, and through Jesus, they can overcome.
I'm Susie Larson, and I'm an author, speaker, and radio host. Everything I do comes out of the passion and the belief that God is who He says He is, and His promises are truly true for us. And yet He also says that in this world you will have trials, you will suffer, but be of good cheer. I've overcome the world. And so my passion is to get with people who are walking through those long valleys of suffering, to remind them not to lose hope. So I grew up in a large family, 7 kids. It was a large Catholic family. My dad was the mayor of our local city, and we had a regular big family with a sock basket. Nobody had their own socks. We just grabbed 2 and went on with the day, stuff like that. Being the 5th of 7, had great parents, but just, you get a little bit lost in the shuffle at times. But I had 2 pretty traumatic experiences when I was about 9 and then again 10 that really, really marked my years after that. About 9 years old, some boys in the neighborhood pinned me down and put their hands all over me. I'm not going to say more than that, but it was a sexual assault. And I was such a insecure, people-pleasing girl that I got up from that place, and it opened a canyon of insecurity in me. I didn't know if I'd done something to cause that, so I didn't tell anybody, but I started to have nightmares, and it was traumatic, as you can imagine. And then about 10 years old, I was walking home from school, And I'm literally about 4.5 feet tall, just a small thing. And I was jumped by a different group of boys, and they beat me badly. When I got up from that place, when they were sort of done with me and they walked away laughing about what they'd just done, I heard a rail in my ear, just these words in my ear: I can get to you anytime and anywhere, and God will never stop me. And that's when I knew the devil was real. That thing got embedded into my soul in the deepest places. Whenever something happened that was kind of traumatic, that thing would rise up in me again. I can get you anytime, anywhere, and God will never stop me. So, to be honest with you, that shaped my thinking and really set me up for a major fear battle for a lot of my life. I believe this with everything in me, that enemy sees your potential long before you ever do. And I think many people listening today, all they have to do is go back to their childhood and look at the first traumas they experienced. And I feel like there's something in there where the enemy saw something of God in you and wanted to take it out before you knew you had it. And, he fights dirty, but overwhelming victory does belong to us. I got married in my young 20s, and we got pregnant right away. And through the pregnancy, found out I had something called endometriosis. And we were going to wait 5 years to have babies, but we got pregnant, and it was really the grace of God, because they said if you were to wait 5 years, you'd have no children, because you will need a hysterectomy by the time in your 20s at some point. So they said you need to have your kids right away. So we had number 2 and then number 3. During my third pregnancy, I was put on bed rest for 6 months. So I was 3 months along, and I had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I had to go to bed for 6 months with different people taking care of these 2 boys of mine. Well, I'd been in bed a few months, and the doctor said, hey, you can get up and test the waters now, because I was getting depressed and I wanted to feel the sun on my face, and I hadn't contracted in a few days. So I met a couple girlfriends from college, and we went for a walk. It was a fall day, and I was super careful, but by nighttime I was contracting. Back to bed I'd go. 2 weeks from that day out, a friend was visiting, and she said, hey, can I get you your water? And I said, sure. And I point to where my bottle of water was, and pins and needles shot out my arm. And as she continued to talk with me, this numbing, crawling feeling started at the base of my skull and crawled over my head down to my face. And, it started this train wreck of neurological symptoms. Well, I delivered our son. Took a year to find out that I had Lyme disease. I was bit by the deer tick my one day up out with my friends. And again, the lie in my ear: I can get to you anytime, anywhere. God will never stop me. And it was a major battle for me. And I was very, very sick for those first number of years as a young mom. But I was a gymnast, I was an athlete. So and the way that I fight back is, my one doctor told me to go to some support groups, and that's super helpful for some. But because I dealt with so much fear, I thought, I can't hear everybody else's symptoms. It'll scare me so bad. So I'm going to get certified as a fitness instructor instead. I was in the fitness industry for about 15 years, and I trained other instructors in different things. Well, once I stepped away from that in 2000, I self-published my first book, and then I started to write articles and got another book or 2 published. I was in studio doing an interview in one of my books. And live radio, when you're in studio, you'll see all that the host does, because she's behind the mic talking to you, but she's cueing the producer, watching emails. There's so many facets to a live show that you do to keep going. Well, in fitness, when you're executing a class, you're doing one move and executing and cueing the next move. There's a lot that goes on to that as well. My brain works that way. So I'm watching this host cue the producer, check an email while she's talking to me, and my heart starts to do a pitter patter. I'm a total introvert too, and I love deeper life conversations. I mean, I would be, if had to be at a party, which is torture for me, I would be in the corner with one person, asking them deeper questions about their story, going deep with one versus shallow with 20, right? So I just came away from that and said, Lord, I don't know what just happened in me, but if this is from you, grow this desire in me. And every time I was in a studio interview, it grew in me. So then I'm like, Lord, you either have to take this desire away, or you got to open the door, because I feel like I'm made for this. Well, at my local station, this was 13 years ago, I was walking out after an in-studio interview, and the host or the producer chased me out and she said, you seem like a natural behind the mic. Would you ever be interested? And I'm like, yes, whatever you're about to ask me, yes. And they asked if I would be their backup, their bench host. And I did that for 4 years. Every single time I would come in and step in and guest host, my heart would beat so hard for it that when I would walk away, I'm like, Lord, either you have to take this desire away from me or you have to give me my own show. I'm made for the interview. Well, long story short, after 4 years, they opened the door and said, let's try a show. And I already had the name, Live the Promise. But I'm so honored and grateful that God would do that. I don't know if you know this, but 3 years ago, I suffered a massive health relapse that was so disappointing to me. And so I just could not believe I was going around the mountain again. And this is where the book Fully Alive came out of. But guess what lie came back up? I was in the bathroom having a massive neurological flare. My arms were numb. My face was numb. I couldn't swallow, bone-crushing headaches, severe dizziness. And I hear the little whisper in my heart, the storms reveal the lies we believe and the truths we need. I'm like, what? I went through Jesus Calling over and over again. Then I got Jesus Today. And I didn't know it until I got Jesus Today. And I think it's in the introduction. I gasped when I read it because I always tell my husband, this woman has suffered. I know she has suffered because I would be crawling through my own valleys, hanging on to some of the things that she's written. So I can't even tell you what it means to me. When you're a sufferer, to hear from someone who's suffered is just a great, great gift. One of the strategies when I was begging God to help me get through this last battle, he gave me this 3-point kind of strategy. He says, you rest while I work, you feast while I fight, you wait to take flight. This is day number 33 on Jesus Today. This is for somebody today, and maybe you need to remember just those 3 strategies that will help you when you're striving. You rest while he works, you feast while he fights, and then you wait to take flight. Listen to this. I will fight for you. You need only be still. I know how weary you are, my child. You've been struggling just to keep your head above water, and your strength is running low. Now is the time for you to stop striving and let me fight for you. I know this is not easy for you to do. You feel as if you must keep struggling in order to survive, but I am calling you to rest in me. I am working on your behalf. So be still and know that I am God. Quieting your body is somewhat challenging for you, but stilling your mind may often seem downright impossible. In your striving to feel secure, you've relied too heavily on your own thinking. This struggle to be in control has elevated your mind to a position of autonomy, so you need the intervention of the Holy Spirit. Ask Him to control your mind more and more, soothing you from the inside out. Take time to rest in the shadow of the Almighty while I fight for you. Is that perfect or what? Lord, what are the lies that I believe? And I hear the enemy rail in my ear from childhood. I can get to you anytime, anywhere, and God will never stop me. And the Lord came back so strong. This is a lie. It is not true. He cannot get to you anytime, anywhere. You have no idea what I've prevented in your life. You can't fathom how I've provided in your life. But this thing's been nipping at your heels your whole life. And I really thought this relapse was going to be the one to take me out because I had a core belief that he could really get to me, that I would have to endure everything that I feared. And when the Lord just said, we don't outrun lies, we turn around and face them. Yes, it feels like he has you by the throat, but you will have him under your feet. I'm not going to let you lose, but I have to let you fight. That began a D-Day battle for me with fear, with that lie, with so much that was in my soul that was even affecting my health. So this last 3-year journey has been miraculous to me because there was stuff in my soul that needed to surface so God could fully restore my soul. And if you don't contend for the stuff and deal with what's in your soul, it will affect your cells. It'll affect you physiologically. So that's where my passion really is to say, we're so connected. We've got to look at this and trust that Jesus wants to lead us to a place of rest and restoration. My book has only been out a few months, but hearing from people who are saying, I did not know what I was in for before I got this book, but to go with God to some of these places and revisit trauma that was still like infecting their soul and let God heal them. They feel like God is taking up more real estate and the enemy has less now in their soul. But when you can slow down long enough to say, and give yourself some credit, just that hurt, and let God speak to you about it. Psalm 51:6 says, you desire truth in my inmost being, and in those hidden places, you'll make me know wisdom. Well, when there's not a truth in that inmost being around a memory, there's a lie. You don't have wisdom, you have brokenness, you have reaction, you have triggers. But when truth gets in there, suddenly you have credibility. You can speak from that place. You can minister to others out of your trauma. He wants to get truth to that place. And I'm just hearing stories of people who weren't even expecting to revisit something and at first were afraid to, but the grace of God was just so there for them. And suddenly they can breathe and they feel like they're healing and they're not afraid of that past memory anymore. That I'm just so grateful for that.
To learn where you can listen to Susie's radio program, Live the Promise, and find information on her new book, Fully Alive, please visit susielarson.com. Next time on the Jesus Calling podcast, we speak with author and speaker Dr. Jim Burns. Jim is the president of Homeward, the largest provider of parenting seminars in the United States. He's recently written an insightful book called Doing Life with Your Adult Children.
Parents who have adult children are having to kind of relearn how you parent, and that their children who are adults and themselves are going through what I call kind of a parallel track. And, that parallel track simply means that, it's the first time for the adult child to figure out how to, relate. It's also the first time for the parent. So there were certain, rights and privileges we had, obviously, as a parent. But at the same time, we really had to, kind of relearn that we had a new job description and that our role as a parent had to change.
Do you love hearing these stories of faith weekly from people like you whose lives have been changed by a closer walk with God? Then be sure to subscribe to the Jesus Calling Stories of Faith podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you like what you're hearing, leave us a review so that we can reach others with these inspirational stories. And you can also see these interviews on video as part of our original web series, with a new interview premiering every other Sunday on Facebook Live. Find previously broadcast interviews on our YouTube channel, on IGTV, or on JesusCalling.com/video.